believe it? We are already at Frenzy's top 50 games of the 2025 season. I mean, we blink, and just like that, we're already here. It seems like just last year we were doing the 2024 season of games. Now we're doing the 2025 season of games, and we're super pumped. We're super fired up. And I mean, let's be real. We're ready to rock and roll with 2026. But to do that, we got to recap these games and get ahead of our list 50 through 1. And I counted, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I counted. And what I counted to was the 300th episode of Pigskin Frenzy. The number one game on our list for the 2025 top 50 2025 games for Pigskin Frenzy will be on the 300th episode of Pigskin Frenzy. It'll be episode 300 when we reveal our number one game. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. What better way to do episode 300 of Pigskin Frenzy than to do that? So we're pumped. We're fired up. We're ready to rock and roll. I'm ready. Guys, welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris. And whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Podbean, or Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by us. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like the episode, leave comments down below, Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. All you have to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. Social media, X and Instagram is at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow, like the pages there. You're going to get episode updates from Pigskin Frenzy and for college football takes from me. There's also one more platform, and we just joined it. Same username. We're on TikTok now. So Pigskin Frenzy is now officially 100% on TikTok. I know I've had some differences with TikTok in the past, but sometimes you just gotta brush that aside. TikTok, Pigskin Frenzy is on TikTok, or I'm on TikTok at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow the page there on TikTok. There is also our website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com for all things Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, we are at 85,000 channel views on YouTube. We're growing and keep it on growing. So a big thank you to all of you guys for tuning in on audio platforms as well. We're at 6,500 listeners, about to be at 6,600 listeners. Guys, thank you for tuning in on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in on all audio platforms. Without you guys, we would not be in college football media. We would not be covering college football and talking about college football and doing Pigskin Frenzy and delivering content to you guys. And not only that, we're so thankful for you guys, but we're so thankful for our Lord and Savior Jesus, because without Jesus, we would not be here. We would not be in college football media, and we would not be spreading his glorious and great name. And if you want to come to know Jesus, it's the best decision you can ever make in your life. Contact me, X and Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy. You can contact me on TikTok as well at Pigskin_Frenzy. There's also the website www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. You can contact me at the Home and About Me page below. It is the best decision you can ever make in your life, coming to know Jesus, because without him, we would not be here, and we would not be spreading his glorious name on all platforms, including this one. So without him, we would not be here. We're so thankful for him, and we give him all the glory and all the praise. Guys, our Frenzy's top 50 games of the 2025 college football season is here. We're kicking off our list. We're here in a little bit, and we're so excited. We have a lot of games on 50 through 41 that you're thinking, surprised that, I forgot about that one, right? And it's hard because some of these games were earlier in the season. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to, discuss it. A lot of games that you're thinking, that's a little bit, a little bit low. There are some better games out there for me that I listed on there. So I hope you like the list. You're going to let me know, guys, what you think on the comments below on YouTube and on all social media platforms. We're going to have the list ready for you. We're going to post it on all social media platforms, and just hang tight. And hopefully you like the list. That's all I got to say. Hopefully you like the list. Let's kick it off at number 50. And let's start it off with a really good game, an interesting game that a lot of people don't really focus on because they really had losing seasons, really. But number 50 is Boston College at Michigan State. Boston College and Michigan State in week 2. It was a September 6th game, and it went into double overtime. I mean, literally the first, 33 minutes as it looks on here, the first 33 minutes, Aiden Childs for Michigan State and Boston College's Dylan Longer combined for a total of 6 touchdown passes. in the first 33 minutes of the football game. It ended up going back and forth. The final score of this game was in double overtime. Double overtime, 42-40 was the final score of this game, with Michigan State defeating Boston College in week 2, 42-40 in double overtime. I mean, it's insane. It's an offensive showcase. Why wouldn't it be a top 50 game in our list? It was very underrated. I know a lot of people you're gonna say, dude, it's Michigan State and Boston College. They didn't make it, to any bowl games or anything. They weren't bowl eligible. But I'm gonna tell you this, man. That was an offensive showcase from both schools. It was early on, and it was very interesting. Very interesting to to watch it and see it, and just to look at it. It was just amazing. It was a very fun game to watch. So number 50 on our list is Michigan State and Boston College. Curious to see what Michigan State does this year. I know that Pat Fitzgerald's now the head coach there. I'm curious to see if Bill O'Brien in his third year can get everything turned around at Boston College. We're going to figure that out as well. Curious to see what's going to happen there. But he found Childs at the end of the game. At the end of this game, he scored the touchdown with his legs, and then found his receiver, Amari Kelly, for the winning points of 2. Double overtime, 42-40. Michigan State wins. Very interesting game. Offensive showcase going back and forth in East Lansing, and a lot of people were thinking, whoa, it's, these two teams could be onto something. And I know a lot of games that we look at that are, like at number 50 with Michigan State and Boston College, we look at it and we're thinking these two teams can amount to something, and then they ended up not. But sometimes they just produced really good games for us, and it was a really fun game to watch. Number 50 on our list is Michigan State and Boston College. Let's go to number 49. Number 49 on our list, and a lot of people are going to think really low. Probably couldn't even be on the list. These two teams did not live up to the hype, but week 1, we thought it was going to be the best game on television in week 1. It's LSU at Clemson in week 1 in Clemson, South Carolina, in Death Valley, where LSU was going into that game not having won a season opener in like what, 3, 4, 5 years, rather 5 years, excuse me. And Clemson, it kind of would help them to win at home because it's going to get their campaign kicked off in the ACC and potentially a national championship, right? That was the whole gist of it in week 1. Final score of this game was LSU 17, Clemson 10. LSU defeated Clemson to win their first season opener in many a years. It was a back and forth game. The offenses were kind of but the key here was LSU's defense. LSU's defense was, when you look at it in 2023, going from 2023 to 2025, was night and day difference. And we said that it was night and day. 2023 was non-existent. 2024 was okay, improvement. In 2025, their defense was pretty strong. And I will say they made some game-winning plays. They made some plays in this game as well that proved to you at the time, like, this team could be the number 1 team in the nation, right? Ohio State and Texas got done playing earlier, but this team looks special on defense, especially. Harold Perkins drove Cade Klubnik to the ground, incomplete pass, and it was a defensive performance from Mansour Delane, Whit Weeks, Harold Perkins, and everybody on that LSU Bayou Bandits defense to win the game for Clemson. Offense was struggling in that game. We did have at least a touchdown from Trey'Dez Green from LSU, but Cade Klubnik and everybody, they got some momentum, especially late in the second half, in the first half, but it looked like LSU was, defensively in the second half was going to take it and win that game. But offensively, a lot left to be desired for both teams in 2025, especially in that ball game. It was a lower scoring game, but LSU's defense was the key in this one to give them that win. Very interesting game. I mean, when I watched it, I thought LSU was the number 1 team in the nation at the time. And then when you look at Clemson, right, and you're thinking, oh, they're going to be bounced back. They're going to be just fine. And then as the weeks go on, you're thinking, oh, man, maybe this was the overrated game of week 1, and you're thinking, wow. And you start to think, you start to laugh thinking, how could we, like, you look back right now in February, it's February 10th on a glorious Tuesday afternoon. When you think back and you look back and you're like, LSU and Clemson was the best game in week 1? Really? At the time, it probably was hyped up to be. Yeah, it was hyped up by me and by others as we were rolling into the season. But, man, wasn't an interesting game at the time, at least, right? You look back on it and you're thinking it's an interesting game at the time, but Now you look and you're like, I tuned out midseason by both teams. So, I mean, interesting game of the time. I put it at 49 because there are way better games out there, but it had to be on the list because at the time it was a really good game to watch, and it was entertaining. So LSU 17, Clemson 10 in Death Valley, in Clemson's Death Valley. They get first season opening win in quite some time. So now this year, we'll see where this game could add up on the 2026 Top 50 Frenzy games of the 2026 season, because this game will be week 1, September 5th, in Death Valley in Baton Rouge, in LSU's Death Valley. Clemson at LSU is the season opener for both teams there. So we're going to see how that goes there. So that's number 49. 10 minutes in, we're at number 48 already. Time is flying by. Number 48 on this list as we look it up. Number 48, LSU again makes our list. And number 48 is LSU at Oklahoma in Week 14, the last weekend of the regular season, surrounding the Lane Kiffin drama. Will he stay at Ole Miss or will he go to LSU? Spoiler alert, he went to LSU, but I'm going to get a lot of flack for what I just said there. I ain't going to lie. I'm going to get a lot of flack, but that's okay. Number 48, LSU at Oklahoma in the last weekend of the regular season, 14. Going into this ball game was interesting because Oklahoma was trying to win out so they could get a playoff spot, a home playoff spot rather. And LSU was trying to play spoiler in that, and their season was already done. Because when you look at week 1, you're thinking LSU's the best team in college football after week 1. And then you look at week 14, you're like, who's LSU, right? And then it's a night and day thing, right? It's a night and day difference between week 1 to week 14. They weren't even the same team. Offensively, LSU was out of sync, but defensively, they were still there. Harold Perkins was still there making picks. Mansour Delaney made a pick. DJ Pickett. I'm not going to lie, DJ Pickett can be a really underrated threat in 2026 for LSU, but DJ Pickett was there. He, now is going on to be a sophomore in 2026. Like I said, going to be a very, very good problem for the SEC. He ended up making some picks, and John Mateer was throwing 2 to 3 interceptions in that game, and you're thinking LSU's got a really good shot at upsetting Oklahoma and playing spoiler to their playoff hopes. And then at the end of the game, later at the end of the game, John Mateer finds Isaiah Santanga, and Oklahoma gets the win at the very end by their defense, by the way, stopping LSU. LSU had an offensive play at the end of the game to try to get a first down, to try to convert. Turnover on downs, and Oklahoma wins the game because Oklahoma stopped LSU's offense to turn the ball over on downs to ice the game. So, overall, Oklahoma defeated LSU 17-13 in that game at home in Norman, Oklahoma. It was a game where you look and you're thinking, okay, it's the last weekend of the regular season for both teams. You're thinking, all right, we'll watch something else on the side. We can multi-view it and keep up with it. But we'll multi-view it on the side and just wait for the Iron Bowl to come on, right? And that's what everyone was, kind of waiting for. And then you look and you're thinking, wait, let's change the channel. This game's actually getting pretty good. LSU's putting up a fight. Oklahoma may get upset here. And you're looking and you're thinking, whoa, dude, this is actually a pretty interesting football game. And it started getting, they started turning the ball over, and LSU started putting up some fight, showing some heart. And Oklahoma was like, what's going on with OU? They could actually lose this game and not go to the college ball playoff. And it was an interesting game. Turnovers by the defense, and then it was stout. LSU's offense just could not get anything going, though. That was the whole point. Defensively, they were doing their absolute best to try to win ball games. And this was LSU's memo the whole season. And it happened again in this game as well. Couldn't get anything going on offense. And then John Mateer and Isaiah Santanga found one big spark play, and they got him for a touchdown. So it was overall kind of an interesting ball game, underrated ball game between Oklahoma and LSU. And you're sitting there and you're laughing, you're thinking, oh man, what could have been if LSU could have, at least held on defensively, right? Because they were winning 13-10. In the fourth quarter. So they was held on defensively. They could have iced this one out, played spoiler, and beat Oklahoma to in their playoff hopes late. So, but it didn't happen that way. Oklahoma won that game 17-13 or 17-13. And that is number 48 on our list because it was a very underrated and interesting ball game. So number 48, LSU at Oklahoma in week 14. Let's go to number 47. Number 47 on our list is a very interesting one as well. It's a bowl game, and it's the Rate Bowl. Minnesota versus New Mexico. Minnesota defeated New Mexico 20-17 in overtime. Drake Lindsey was a factor in this. PJ Fleck is undefeated in bowl games there. They have not yet lost a bowl game at Minnesota. He's not yet lost a bowl game at Minnesota. It's a long streak. Like this is their 9th straight bowl win under Fleck, and it was their 9th straight bowl win in Minnesota, and it was a really good win for them. Jason X, New Mexico Lobos, man, has been a really good story, especially by midseason. And they were going into this game, they were going to see, and a lot of people were thinking they can give Minnesota some problems in the Rate Bowl, and they can give them some problems. And New Mexico fought. They fought Minnesota really good and really hard in this game, but Drake Lindsey at the very end, in overtime, wins them the game, and Minnesota gets the win in the Rate Bowl. So it was an underrated bowl game. Don't get me wrong in that. It was a very underrated game nonetheless. It wasn't like overall the best bowl game out there, but it was underrated nonetheless. And that's why I like the Rate Bowl at 47. I think it's a very, very good number there. So Minnesota 20-20, New Mexico 17. Minnesota wins their 9th straight bowl win. They're number 47 on our list. The Rate Bowl is number 47 on our list. Minnesota versus New Mexico. Number 46 on our list is pretty good as well. And it's, we have some, by the way. We have some group of 5, group of 6 now, rather. It's the group of 6, schools in here. By the way, speaking of the group of 6, shout out to North Dakota State joining the group of 6 and joining the Mountain West, going from FCS to FBS. Congratulations to them. We'll see how it goes for them. Interesting move there. They're in the Mountain West. They're in the group of 6. Can't wait to see what's going to happen in 2026. So, excuse me. Number 46 now. Number 46, group of 6, is Memphis at UAB in week 8. Alex Mortensen was replacing Trent Dilfer as their head coach. Interim-wise, he's now their full-time head coach. But he was their interim coach at the time. And at UAB, because they were going for a coaching change, Memphis was going in there undefeated. Undefeated in week 8. I think 6-0, 7-0 around there. And Ryan Silverfield was getting them ready to play. And what happened? They kind of slept on them. And they slept on them, and it was a pretty sizable deficit before Memphis tried to storm back and win, but UAB would not allow it. And UAB, the interim bump, right? The interim bump, like what we all talk about, happened in this ball game in week 8. UAB defeated and upset in Memphis 31-24 in a really good ball game. Very interesting game down in Birmingham, Alabama, and UAB got the win under Alex Mortensen. They were on their way to a comeback. Memphis was. They were trying to come back and win this game. Backup A.J. Hill was in there. Lewis was, kind of beat up and banged up. So A.J. Hill, their backup, came in. Not anymore. He's in the portal now. But their then backup A.J. Hill came in, try to fight really hard to lead them back to a victory. But UAB wanted this upset and they wanted this win, and they ended up knocking Memphis and giving them their first loss. And it kind of played into a lot of a chaos, right? Because you were thinking Memphis was going to make an appearance in the American Conference Championship, and then you got Tulane involved, you got South Florida involved, and then you got North Texas coming in to their own, and you're thinking, whoa, right? You're thinking, whoa, that's crazy. You're thinking there's a whole bunch of chaos in the group of 6. A lot of people were focusing on the ACC having some chaos, but the American Conference was starting to get some chaos too. You had Navy involved as well. You had a lot of good teams in that conference that could try to fight for a playoff spot at that time. So Memphis going down was a pretty big one, especially in the group of 6. So you're thinking, okay, what's going to happen now with North Texas? What's going to happen now with Navy, South Florida? And then you're asking, like, what's going to happen, right? So upset losses like that deserve to be on lists like these. I mean, it was a pretty big deal, and at the time, it was a big deal for playoff implications, for American Conference Championship implications as well. Memphis losing to UAB, shocker, because UAB wasn't really the best team in that conference. So Memphis losing, and UAB getting an upset win with an interim bump like Alex Mortensen. We'll see how he does as their permanent head coach at UAB. UAB defeated Memphis in that ball game 31-24 in week 8. That is number 46 on our list, Memphis at UAB in week 8. Number 45 on our list, as we're, got 10 more minutes left, I guess. Number 45, South Florida at Florida in week 2. South Florida, first Thursday night game against Boise State, their opening game. You're looking at them and you're thinking, this is the opening weekend of college football, the opening Thursday of college football. They're playing Boise State, defending Mountain West champions, coming off of a playoff run. And they lost Ashton Jeanty, Maddox Masson's in there. You get Byron Brown back, and he's Byron Brown, who's using his last year of eligibility this year at Auburn. You get Alex Golish in there and Byron Brown in there against Boise State, and you're looking at them and you're thinking, okay, like they're playing some really good. They're playing really good on offense. Let's see what that defense is about. Todd Orlando plays really good on defense, and that defense was lighting everybody up in the G6. They really were. So you get that, and then they were lighting Boise State up defensively. They were all over their offense. And then Byron Brown rushing for touchdowns, and then you start to see, okay, South Florida's for real. And then they start playing a little bit more, and you're thinking, okay, South Florida is really for real. They ended up blowing out Boise State. And you're thinking, okay, we'll see how they do against Florida. They're playing an SEC school. We'll see how they do against Billy Napier in Florida in week 2 in the Swamp. Can they do something like this? And a lot of people were thinking no. And I was one of them. I was thinking, nah, they probably won't, I bet. I bet they won't. But then you look at it and you're thinking, okay, as they play, you're thinking, okay, South Florida showing some fight against Florida, and Florida showing some fight, and they had it was 15-16 late in the game. South Florida goes on a late drive with Byron Brown. They run the ball a few times, first down. Florida starts to, choke a little bit and starts to, commit penalties. Penalties were a huge concern in that. And on that drive, and they started committing penalties and giving free yardage to South Florida. South Florida marches down the field with the help of Florida with penalties and just getting it through first downs, and Byron Brown getting it with his legs. All of a sudden, they're down at field goal range. They kick the field goal, and they make it. And it's 18-16. South Florida defeats and upsets Florida in the Swamp. The Bulls go crazy, and they're 2-0 after beating Florida and then beating Boise State the week previously. And then they had Miami, and that was kind of a hard one there. It's a tough pill to swallow against them there, because Miami would eventually go on to play for a national title. But South Florida ended up beating Florida in a very crazy game, a shocker of a week 2 upset there. A lot of people were not expecting that to happen, and it did. That's why it's on our list, because of the shock value. The shock value of that was pretty good in week 2. And a lot of people were talking about it after week 2. I talked about it on Pigskin Frenzy on our week 2 recap show this past season. And I talked about it. I was like, what's going on with Florida? Good for South Florida. But what happened to Florida? Like, what's going on there? It talked about a lot for both teams. So South Florida ended up, having a good run. And throughout the season, Florida was kind of iffy, right? They didn't even make a bowl game. But we'll see what happens. Florida now with John Summerall. South Florida now has Brian Hartline as their next head coach. So both schools went through head coaching changes for 2026 season. So we're going to see what happens, for, South Florida and Florida in 2026. But I'm going to tell you what, man, that was a very interesting upset there at number 45. Number 45, South Florida at Florida in week 2. 44, 43, 42, and 41 left. So we got 4 more games left. Number 44 is Texas Tech at Arizona State in week 8. A lot of week 8 games, Joel. A lot of week 8 games here. There were some good ones all on week 8, man. And this one was one of them, honestly. Texas Tech at Arizona State, you're thinking Arizona State's kind of beat up. What are they Texas Tech shouldn't lose this game. They're undefeated. They're a way better team this year. Well, not so fast. And despite being beat up, Arizona State and Kenny Dillingham found a way to cause some problems for Texas Tech, and they defeated Texas Tech 26-22 at home. That, before their Oregon game, was Texas Tech's only loss entering the Big 12 championship, was Arizona State. The Sun Devils reigned supreme in that one. Texas Tech looked a little bit off in that ball game. I don't know what happened, but and Arizona State was just capitalizing on that. Everybody is going to – it is hard to go undefeated. Let me just put it that way. It's hard to go undefeated. It's hard to maintain that perfect record, and it just happens. You're going to slip up, and this was Texas Tech's slip up in the regular season. Arizona State played a really good game against Texas Tech, and they found a way to capitalize on a lot of mistakes that Texas Tech was making. But Arizona State was still beat up at that time. That's a key foreshadow of what we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But Arizona State found a way, fought, and persevered to pull off the upset. So, good game there for Texas Tech, and good game for Arizona State mainly. I mean, Texas Tech played a little bit sloppy, played a little bit better, but I think they need to eat that loss to say, okay, we're going to improve and get a lot better. So, final score of this game was 26-22. Arizona State defeated Texas Tech at home, 26-22 in Week 8. In a good game. It was a good game because Arizona State was all over them at first, but Texas Tech showed some fight late to try to come back and win, and you're thinking, okay, I should have changed the channel. You change the channel, and then all of a sudden, Arizona State is going to get the ball back, and then it's over. But, hey, at the very end, it was back and forth, but it was mainly an Arizona State win there. So Arizona State defeated Texas Tech 26-22. Arizona State and Texas Tech is number 44 on our list. Number 43 is TCU at Arizona State in Week 5. Arizona State defeated TCU 27-24, but the kicker there was TCU was up, I think 21, it was 17-0, 21-0 against Arizona State. Arizona State early on in Week 5 of this game, Week 5 on September 26th, was beat up. They were very beat up. And early on, Arizona State was beat up. But they persevered and showed some heart and some fight and came back and stormed back to beat TCU at home. So Josh Hoover, TCU, they were trying their best to hang on, to try to win. But the fight that Levitt showed, the fight that Jordan Tyson showed, that Kenny Dillingham showed on the sidelines, calling the plays, was really good. And Arizona State ended up winning this game 27-24. And it was a good early Big 12 classic, right? That we wanted to see. So very cool to see that. And they were going back and forth. So games like that is why it's on the list at 43, right? I know I'm not going to put it way up there. But it was a good game nonetheless to put it 43. Back and forth. Come back with Arizona State when TCU was all the way up, right? And then all of a sudden, Arizona State comes back and wins. So, very good game in Week 5. Very good Friday night game that you wanted to see. It was very, very interesting. So, TCU at Arizona State in Week 5. Arizona State defeated TCU 27-24. Number 43 is TCU at Arizona State in Week 5. Number 42 and 41. Two more, and then we'll wrap up Pigskin Frenzy for today. South Florida at Memphis in Week 9 was 42. This was a Pigskin Frenzy game in Week 9. Group of 6, potentially a spot at the conference championship on the line here. Spoiler alert, neither one of them made it. But at the time, it was a game where you're thinking, okay, this is a game where you look and one of these teams is probably going to go to the conference championships, right? South Florida Memphis can't afford to lose another one. They just lost to UAB. This would not look good for South Florida to lose either. So it's just one of those things where you're looking and you're thinking, okay, USF can't lose, Memphis can't lose, but something's got to give here. USF was all over Memphis. It was at Memphis. USF was all over them. Byron Brown was running the ball, touchdown after touchdown, running the ball for first down yardage. The running game was all over them. Defensively, they were doing pretty well. And then, all of a sudden, as they go into at least the midway through the third, late third, Memphis starts showing some fight. And then South Florida is kind of slowing down, easing their foot off the pedal. I always say on this show, I say it all the time. You have to floor it. When you have a lead, you floor that bad boy. You floor it. You floor the Ferrari. Press all the way down the gas and keep on going. That is what you do in football. You floor it. Not in real life with cars. Don't do that with cars. Go the speed limit. But if you're talking about football, if you have a high-powered motor vehicle in football, with a sizable lead, you floor the car and you go for it, and you keep going. They let their foot off the gas pedal a little bit. They eased their foot off the gas pedal a little bit and hung around in there enough so Memphis could come back. And Memphis did. They came back late. And then you're thinking, oh, man, now it's 31-31. Memphis has the ball late. They really could score and get out of a field goal and upset Golish and the Bulls. Guess what happened? They got a field goal, and they upset Golish and the Bulls. They got them. Memphis defeated South Florida 34-31 in a very entertaining game at the very end. At first, the first half, it was all USF, and Memphis climbs back in it and storms back to beat South Florida. Memphis has had some good comebacks this year. We're going to mention one probably on Thursday as we do our list for Thursday, but this is another good comeback from Memphis. Memphis defeated South Florida. They were walking in Memphis, and they were feeling pretty good heading into that Tulane game because they were kind of in a little bit. They're in the seat, right in the hot seat for a spot in the American Conference Championship. So that win was a good win for Memphis. They came back, beat them. Fun game to watch, very entertaining. I was on the edge of my seat watching it. And I was looking at it, and I was thinking, this is very, very fun to watch. So Memphis defeated South Florida 34-31. That is number 42 on our list because of how awesome that comeback was. So 42, South Florida at Memphis, where Memphis defeated South Florida 34-31 in week 9. Number 41, our last one before we wrap up here on Pigskin Frenzy, number 41. And you're going to think, really? Out of those games? You put them ahead. Out of the games you just mentioned, you put this one ahead of both of them. And I'll explain it in the best way I can. So, number 41 was the college ball playoff quarterfinal Cotton Bowl between Miami and Ohio State. At number 41, Miami defeated Ohio State 24-14. And in this game, the reason why it's at 41 is not because of how close the game was, at least on the field. On the field, Miami was roughing up Ohio State. It was a physical masterpiece, a physical clinic by Miami, and they were out-physicaling Ohio State in this game. The magnitude of the game, and you're thinking, really? Because they blew them out that way. The reason why I made it the 41st game ahead of the other games is who here was expecting Miami to blow out Ohio State? Play-wise, not score-wise. I mean, score-wise, it was a 10-point win. It was a pretty sizable deficit, don't get me wrong, but who here thought that Miami was going to blow out Ohio State? I don't think anybody did. I picked Ohio State to beat Miami. So when you look at it, you're thinking, okay, 24-14 on the field, Miami was just taking them to school, right? Because of how physical they were, and they were just out-manning a lot of their guys and just out-physicaling them up front on the line of scrimmage. That's why it's 41, because no one thought that was going to happen, and it did. I know the score is like, okay, why would that be 41 ahead of the other ones? But think about what I just said. Nobody thought Ohio State was going to get beat like they did, and they did. And Miami played a heck of a game and out-physicaled them, and it was a very watchable game. It was New Year's Eve, a watchable game. So, hey, all power to Miami. Miami 24, Ohio State 14. Miami would go on to the national championship and play a home national championship game, lose to Indiana. But that game right there was fun to watch. It was a very fun game to watch at first. It was cool and interesting to see how Ohio State was going to respond in the second half of this game, and they did. They did it first. They scored right away, and you thought, hey, it's not over. And then it, in a way, it ended up being sort of over as Miami just kept pouring it on up front. So, interesting game. Miami versus Ohio State, quarterfinal Cotton Bowl Classic, or College Bowl Playoff quarterfinal Cotton Bowl Classic, or whatever. Miami versus Ohio State is at 41 because of the magnitude of the game and because of how well Miami played in this game. Not only because of how Miami played in this game, because of the shock value that you didn't think Ohio State was going to be in this type of game against Miami. And Miami ended up sort of blowing them out. Not really out physicaling them on play-wise, and in play-wise, sort of blowing them out play-wise. Not score-wise, but play-wise, sort of blowing them out. But 41, College Ball Playoff quarterfinal Cotton Bowl, Miami versus Ohio State, where Miami defeated Ohio State 24-14. That was 50 through 41 of our list. We will have the rest of the list, and we'll have it all posted, the whole list of 50 through 41 posted on X and Instagram and TikTok at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow and like the pages there. Guys, we are out of time. A big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college ball coverage presented by me. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. All you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram is at Pigskin_Frenzy, along with TikTok at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow, like the pages there. You're going to get video clips and takes and a lot episode updates for Pigskin Frenzy, as well as college football takes from me. You also have the website www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Guys, we will be back Thursday as we continue our list of top 50 games. We're going to be back Thursday. We're pumped. We're excited to continue this list on Thursday, 40 through 31. 40 through 31 of our list of Frenzy's top 50 games of the 2025 college football season. We continue on Thursday. You're not going to want to miss it then on all platforms. And until Thursday, guys, I'm Joel Norris. We're signing off. We're super pumped. We'll see you Thursday. We love you all. We're praying for you all. As always, stay the course.